Hi, I'm Matt Rycraft. Let me show you 5 tips that will help you improve your photography. Tip 1 is find the light. Now, when I'm teaching my students, the first thing that I teach them is to understand light. Understand how to create light, how to add it, how to find it. So, lighting is obviously the key ingredient to any amazing photograph. And the idea here is that you need to make sure that you're understanding what the light is doing to whatever you're photographing. This could be a landscape, it could be a person, it could be, some food. Now, it's up to you to decide how you want that light to fall. Now, you can add light, you can use existing light that you've got around you. It could be a spotlight, it could be just the sun falling, it could be direct sunlight. But what you should be thinking about is where this light is either going to come from or where it's falling currently. Now, you can add light as well. So if you're in a dark environment and the subject isn't lit, now predominantly I'm a wedding photographer, so a lot of the time I'm using LED lights or I'm using flashlights. And I'm constantly adding light to subjects where the light isn't falling the way that I want it. So I've got complete control. So the key here is to take control of the light. Now, this being the most important ingredient to your photograph, it makes complete sense that this is the first place that you need to start. Tip 2 is to always consider converting the picture to black and white. Now, over the years, I've saved a number of photographs by converting them to black and white for a number of reasons. It could be that it was high ISO and that the lighting wasn't quite right, but in fact, the grain from the ISO is actually added to the black and white ambience of the image, so that's worked really well. Or it could be that maybe I photographed in a church and we have these terrible LED lights that flicker and give really unpleasant colouring on skin tones or just the colour of the shot in general. Now, I do touch on white balance control within this tutorial, so keep watching and I will talk a little bit about white balance control. But ultimately, what I'd say to you is that if you've got a picture and it's not really popping kind of in colour, definitely consider taking a look at moving it over to a black and white conversion. Now, I have some amazing black and white presets that I've created in Lightroom that will be available over the coming weeks to download. So it's most certainly a consideration. Now, some pictures in general do actually look better in black and white. So when you've got a picture and you're not too sure what kind of a finish you want, first point of call would be, for me, take it to black and white, see how it looks, tweak the shadows, and see if that maybe gives you the feel of the image that you're looking for. Tip 3 is shooting in manual white balance. Now, this isn't for the faint-hearted, but when I'm running my workshops, I'll always teach my students to at least take a look at shooting in manual white balance. And the reason why I only shoot in manual is because I want complete consistency with the finish of the image. Now, by controlling the white balance myself, I'm not allowing the camera to take control of what white balance it thinks that the image should finish on. I'm telling the camera that this is the colour toning, or at least the warmthness or the coolness of the shot that's required. Now, this will also help your editing as well. Now, if you're shooting in an environment where it's sunny and cloudy and the white balance is fluctuating, thousands of kelvins, which it might do, when you come to the editing, you're going to spend more time trying to kind of balance out the white balance color. But if you're in manual white balance and you've set your Kelvin to say 5200, which is a nice kind of warm color, when you go to edit the pictures, they're all going to be that white balance. They wouldn't have jumped from 5000 to 54 and to 56, and you'll definitely have inconsistencies with the color. You're going to start from a plain level field. But this also helps for mass syncing. So if, for instance, you've shot all the pictures on, say, 5200, but you want it a little bit warmer, then you can just batch sync 5600, say, from Lightroom across all those images, and you know that all those images are going to retain the exact same white balance colouring across all those images. And this tip alone, I'm 100% sure, will speed up your editing process. Tip 4 is attention to detail. Now, me being a wedding photographer, attention to detail is absolutely critical. It could be the veil just not symmetrically right. It could be the dress hasn't been kind of laid on the floor quite perfectly, or the arms are quite right. I mean, it's what really elevates you from being, a decent photographer to a next level photographer. Because believe it or not, we're so accustomed to photographing, with Instagram, with Snapchat, and all the different, social media platforms out there, is that we're all photographers. So we're getting to see these amazing photographs constantly. And you can really spot the high end imagery, and typically they're pretty much close to perfect. Now, attention to detail could be kind of adjusting things on the day, or it could be adjusting things in post production. I tend to find a lot of the kind of improvements that could be made to attention to detail is within the editing process. So once you've edited an image or a set of images, I'd always say to you to go back to them a day or 2 days later, because I'll absolutely guarantee that you'll see lots of things that you didn't see first time round that you can take out. And there's nothing worse than posting an image online or on your website and then coming back to it a week later and thinking, oh, I didn't see that, I should have removed it. So what I'd say to kind of looking at attention to detail is that give yourself a bit of space from editing the image. If you spent an hour or two in an image, or if you've gone through 100 images from a photo shoot, do the first phase of edit and then go back to them, and I'll guarantee you'll find some changes that will massively improve the image and the collection. Tip 5 is to make sure your editing is on point. Now, I always teach my students to, make sure that the picture is exposed correctly, framed correctly, and everything is perfect about it, straight from camera. Now, what you need to do to take your photography to another level is to make sure your editing is completely on point. Now, this is from how you edit in Photoshop, how you kind of get your images light from Lightroom. Now, pretty much I'd say the majority of the work will come out of Lightroom looking absolutely perfect. And I've got an array of presets and a way and a system to edit through Lightroom that allows me to edit incredibly fast, but also to make sure that there isn't really much more additional work to be done on the actual images. But for kind of facial retouching and cloning and removing objects, I'll take the images over to Lightroom if I need to go to that extent. But you really need to understand your editing programs to a high degree if you want to take your photography to another level. Now, images nowadays are heavily edited, believe it or not. It's very easy for me to spot an image that has been heavily edited, because I know after 15 years that an image there's no way it would look like that if it was taken, because it's just not possible, or the depth just isn't there, or it maybe just looks a little bit too good. But those images that are a little bit too good are usually those amazing images. Now, I've taken pictures in lots of various locations and places like churches where maybe there's a little window here that isn't quite right on this side, and I want it to look symmetrical, and I'll clone this part over here. Now, you'll be surprised at how much of that goes on in photography. And typically, what I'd say to you is, if you see an image and you think that looks absolutely outstanding, how have they got it that symmetrical, that perfect? It's probably had a huge amount of work put on the image. Now, there's nothing wrong with that at all, and that's just the age we live in, and that's been going on for absolutely years. It's just that we're in a digital environment now, so it's easy for us to do. But what I'd say to you is that if you want to make an image perfect, don't be afraid to edit it to make it look perfect. That's just the way, and that's the world that we live in right now. But really understand your editing software. Make sure that you have the ability to take the images to the next level, and just practice. There's loads of tutorials online to take your images to another level, or even just give you inspiration as to what you can do with an image. Maybe dig some old images out and maybe take a look at tweaking them to see if you can make them, that little bit more perfect. So editing, make sure your editing is on point. So there you have it, 5 tips to help you improve your photography. Now I'm pretty sure there's going to be a couple of nuggets in there that will help you elevate your imagery and maybe just the way that you photograph or think about photographing things. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop me a message, send me an email. If you need any help, I'm always here. But for now, thanks so much and keep an eye out for more videos to help you improve your photography.